Project Stormgate. In 1962, the U.S. Navy launched Project Stormgate to develop weather modification technology for military advantage. The goal was creating localized storms that could disrupt enemy operations while leaving Allied forces unaffected. Instead, the project accidentally created a permanent atmospheric anomaly that continues to generate impossible weather patterns worldwide, forcing meteorologists to develop new classification systems for phenomena that violate known atmospheric physics. The project was based at Naval Air Station Patuxent River, where researchers used high-powered microwave arrays to heat specific atmospheric layers and create controlled pressure differentials. Initial tests successfully generated small thunderstorms and redirected existing weather systems within a 50-mile radius. Dr. Margaret Chen, the project's chief meteorologist, documented that early experiments achieved their intended goals with remarkable precision. The team could create rain during droughts, dissipate hurricanes before landfall, and generate protective fog cover for naval operations. The breakthrough came when researchers attempted to scale up the technology for strategic applications. On August 15, 1962, they activated the full array to create a massive storm system that would simulate the defensive weather barriers needed for protecting fleet operations from enemy air attacks. The experiment succeeded beyond all expectations. The artificial storm system achieved the planned intensity and coverage area, demonstrating that weather could be weaponized on a scale large enough to affect entire military theaters. But when researchers attempted to shut down the system, they discovered something impossible had occurred. The artificial storm had become self-sustaining and was drawing energy from atmospheric sources that didn't exist in meteorological models. The weather system continued to grow and intensify despite the microwave arrays being completely powered down, suggesting it had tapped into unknown energy sources within Earth's atmospheric dynamics. Most disturbing was the discovery that the artificial storm was generating weather patterns that violated fundamental atmospheric physics. Temperatures were rising and falling simultaneously in the same air masses. Winds were blowing in impossible circular patterns that defied pressure dynamics, and precipitation was occurring without sufficient atmospheric moisture. Within 72 hours, the self-sustaining storm system had spread beyond the test area and was affecting weather patterns across the eastern United States. Traditional meteorological models couldn't predict its behavior because it was operating according to principles that didn't exist in atmospheric science. Emergency protocols were implemented to contain the anomalous weather system, but researchers found that any attempt to interfere with it caused the effects to intensify and spread further. The artificial storm had achieved a state of dynamic equilibrium that made it resistant to external control. The situation escalated when similar impossible weather patterns began appearing in other parts of the world, suggesting that the Stormgate experiment had triggered a global atmospheric chain reaction that was propagating through interconnected weather systems. Project Stormgate was immediately terminated and all equipment was destroyed, but the atmospheric anomaly it created continues to generate impossible weather phenomena worldwide. Modern meteorologists have developed classified terminology for Stormgate events that describe weather patterns violating known physics. The project proved that Earth's atmospheric systems are far more complex and interconnected than understood, and that artificial weather modification can trigger permanent changes in global atmospheric dynamics that operate according to principles beyond current meteorological science. Operation MindLink. Between 1975 and 1978, the U.S. Army's Intelligence and Security Command conducted Operation MindLink to enhance soldier communication through electromagnetic brain stimulation. The research aimed to create telepathic communication networks that would give military units tactical advantages in combat situations. Instead, the project accidentally created permanent psychic connections between test subjects that couldn't be severed, fundamentally altering human consciousness in ways that military psychiatrists still don't understand. The project was conducted at Fort Meade, Maryland, where researchers used precise electromagnetic fields to stimulate specific brain regions involved in communication and sensory processing. The goal was enhancing soldiers' ability to share tactical information without radio communication that could be intercepted by enemies. Colonel Robert Martinez, the project director, documented that initial experiments achieved limited success in enhancing intuitive communication between paired subjects. Soldiers could sense each other's emotional states and occasionally share simple mental images during electromagnetic stimulation sessions. The breakthrough occurred when researchers developed more powerful electromagnetic arrays capable of synchronizing brainwave patterns between multiple subjects simultaneously. The enhanced system created temporary telepathic networks linking entire squads of soldiers during training exercises. On November 3, 1977, during the largest test involving 24 subjects, the electromagnetic arrays malfunctioned and delivered far more powerful stimulation than intended. Instead of temporary enhancement, the experiment created permanent psychic connections that persisted after the electromagnetic fields were shut down. The affected soldiers began experiencing constant telepathic communication with each other, regardless of distance or electromagnetic shielding. They could share thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences in real time, creating a collective consciousness that operated independently of individual minds. Most extraordinary was the discovery that the psychic network was expanding beyond the original test subjects. Soldiers who came into close contact with MindLink participants began developing similar telepathic abilities, suggesting that enhanced consciousness could spread through some form of psychic contagion. Medical examination revealed that the electromagnetic stimulation had created permanent changes in brain structure, particularly in regions associated with electromagnetic sensitivity and neural synchronization. The modifications appeared to have activated dormant capabilities that existed naturally in human neurology. When military psychiatrists attempted to develop methods for severing the psychic connections, they found that the telepathic network had become essential for the participants' psychological stability. Attempts to block the psychic communication caused severe mental distress and cognitive dysfunction. The situation became critical when MindLink subjects began accessing classified information through their psychic connections with other military personnel. The telepathic network was inadvertently creating security breaches as participants gained access to thoughts and memories containing sensitive intelligence. Operation MindLink was immediately terminated, and all participants were placed in specialized facilities where their psychic abilities could be monitored and contained. However, the telepathic effects continued to spread to medical staff and security personnel who worked with the affected soldiers. Current containment protocols require that all MindLink participants and their psychic contacts be maintained in electromagnetic isolation facilities where their telepathic abilities can be studied, while preventing further spread of enhanced consciousness capabilities. The project proved that human consciousness possesses latent telepathic capabilities that can be permanently activated through electromagnetic stimulation. But such enhancement creates uncontrollable psychic networks that pose security risks and challenge fundamental assumptions about individual identity and mental privacy. Project Timestream. In 1983, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, initiated Project Timestream to develop high-precision atomic clocks for military navigation and communication systems. The research aimed to create timing devices accurate enough to maintain synchronization across global military networks. Instead, the project accidentally created temporal anomalies that caused time to flow at different rates in various locations, fundamentally disrupting the uniformity of temporal experience. The project was based at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where researchers developed atomic clocks using exotic matter states that achieved timing precision exceeding anything previously possible. The clocks were accurate to within 1 second over the entire age of the universe. Dr. Patricia Wong, the project's chief physicist, documented that the ultra-precise clocks began detecting temporal variations that shouldn't exist according to relativity theory. Different clocks placed in identical conditions were measuring time at slightly different rates, suggesting local variations in temporal flow. The breakthrough came when researchers synchronized multiple ultra-precise clocks across different geographical locations to create a global timing network. The synchronized system was designed to provide navigation accuracy that would revolutionize military positioning and communication systems. On September 12, 1983, when the global network was fully activated, the synchronized clocks began creating localized temporal distortions that affected the rate at which time passed in their immediate vicinity. Areas near the clocks experienced time dilation effects that caused minutes to pass like hours while surrounding regions remained unaffected. The temporal anomalies weren't uniform, but created complex patterns of accelerated and decelerated time throughout the test facilities. Researchers found themselves aging at different rates depending on their proximity to various clocks, creating personal temporal desynchronization. Most disturbing was the discovery that the temporal distortions were affecting causality sequences. Events in accelerated time zones were occurring before their causes in normal time areas, creating paradoxical situations where effects preceded causes within the same facility. Military personnel working in the temporal anomaly zones began experiencing severe psychological effects as their personal timeline became disconnected from normal temporal flow. Some aged rapidly, while others seemed frozen in time, creating administrative nightmares for military records and medical care. When DARPA attempted to shut down the clock network, they discovered that the temporal distortions had become self-sustaining and were spreading beyond the original installation sites. The ultra-precise timing signals had created a resonance effect that was propagating through Earth's gravitational field. Emergency protocols were implemented to contain the temporal anomalies using electromagnetic shielding and isolation barriers, but the time distortion effects continued to expand slowly. Military facilities worldwide began reporting timing inconsistencies that suggested temporal contamination. Project Timestream was classified beyond normal security levels, and all affected personnel were relocated to temporal isolation facilities where their accelerated or decelerated aging could be monitored and treated using experimental medical procedures. Modern military timing systems incorporate safeguards designed to prevent temporal resonance effects. But classified reports suggest that low-level temporal anomalies continue to affect military installations worldwide, requiring constant monitoring and adjustment of timing protocols. The project proved that ultra-precise time measurement can create actual temporal distortions that disrupt the uniformity of time flow, and that causality itself can be destabilized through technological manipulation of temporal precision, challenging fundamental assumptions about the nature of time and reality. Operation Neural Storm. From 1969 to 1972, the U.S. Air Force conducted Operation Neural Storm to develop electromagnetic weapons that could disable enemy electronics without affecting human personnel. The research aimed to create directed energy weapons that would neutralize enemy radar and communication systems while leaving soldiers unharmed. Instead, the project accidentally discovered that certain electromagnetic frequencies could directly interface with human consciousness, creating uncontrollable mental effects that fundamentally altered how affected individuals perceived reality. The project was conducted at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, where researchers developed high-powered electromagnetic pulse generators designed to disrupt electronic systems at specific frequencies that would avoid interference with critical friendly systems. Major Sarah Kim, the project's technical director, documented that initial testing successfully disabled various electronic targets while leaving nearby personnel unaffected. The electromagnetic weapons achieved their intended goals of neutralizing enemy systems without causing human casualties. The breakthrough came when researchers discovered that certain frequency combinations could penetrate electronic shielding and affect hardened military electronics that were designed to withstand electromagnetic attack. The enhanced weapons promised to neutralize any electronic system regardless of protection level. On March 7, 1971, during testing of the most powerful frequency combination, researchers noticed that personnel in the target area were experiencing unusual psychological effects. Test subjects reported enhanced sensory perception, altered time perception, and ability to sense electromagnetic fields directly. The electromagnetic pulses were inadvertently stimulating human neural tissue in ways that enhanced cognitive function and sensory awareness. Affected personnel could detect electromagnetic signals, see broader light spectrums, and process information at accelerated rates. Most extraordinary was the discovery that the neural enhancement effects were permanent and continued to intensify over time. Personnel exposed to the electromagnetic frequencies developed capabilities that exceeded normal human cognitive and sensory limitations. Enhanced individuals could detect electronic devices through electromagnetic sensitivity, observe radio transmissions as visible light patterns, and process multiple information streams simultaneously without cognitive overload. Their enhanced awareness made them extremely valuable for intelligence and reconnaissance operations. However, the neural enhancement came with severe side effects. Enhanced personnel experienced constant electromagnetic sensory input that made it impossible to filter out background electronic noise. They suffered from chronic overstimulation that caused insomnia, anxiety, and eventually mental breakdown. When Air Force medical personnel attempted to develop treatments for the neural enhancement effects, they discovered that the electromagnetic modifications had created permanent changes in brain structure that couldn't be reversed using available medical technology. The situation became critical when enhanced personnel began detecting classified electromagnetic communications and developing awareness of classified projects through their enhanced electromagnetic sensitivity. Their abilities created security breaches as they gained access to information through electronic surveillance capabilities. Operation Neural Storm was immediately terminated, and all enhanced personnel were placed in electromagnetic isolation facilities where their abilities could be contained, while researchers developed methods for managing their enhanced awareness and treating their psychological complications. Modern military electromagnetic weapons incorporate frequency limitations designed to prevent neural interface effects, but classified medical facilities continue treating personnel who were affected by neural storm frequencies and suffer from permanent electromagnetic hypersensitivity. The project proved that human consciousness can interface directly with electromagnetic fields, and that artificial enhancement of neural sensitivity creates cognitive capabilities that exceed normal human limitations, but cause severe psychological consequences that current medical science cannot treat effectively. Project Resonance Gate. In 1987, the U.S. Navy's Office of Naval Research launched Project Resonance Gate to develop underwater communication systems that could penetrate any depth and reach submerged submarines regardless of environmental conditions. The research aimed to create acoustic communication that could maintain contact with strategic nuclear submarines during deep ocean operations. Instead, the project accidentally established communication with underwater sources that appeared to be responding from parallel versions of Earth's oceans. The project was based at the Naval Underwater Systems Center in Newport, Rhode Island, where researchers developed extremely low-frequency acoustic systems that could propagate through oceanic layers that normally blocked conventional communication. Dr. Michael Thompson, the project's chief acoustics engineer, documented that the communication systems achieved their intended goals of reaching submarines at any depth and maintaining clear signal transmission through oceanic interference that defeated standard radio communication. The breakthrough came when researchers developed resonance amplification technology that could boost acoustic signals by synchronizing them with natural oceanic resonance frequencies. The amplified system promised communication capabilities that would revolutionize submarine operations. On August 23, 1987, during the first full-scale test of the resonance amplification system, researchers began receiving response signals from sources that didn't correspond to any known submarines or underwater installations. The responses were using proper military communication protocols, but originated from locations that contained no friendly forces. Analysis revealed that the acoustic signals were somehow reaching parallel versions of Earth's oceans, where different military forces were conducting their own submarine operations. The resonance frequencies had created interdimensional communication links with alternate timelines. The responding sources identified themselves using familiar military designations, but reported operational parameters that didn't match known naval activities. They described submarine technologies, ocean conditions, and strategic situations that differed significantly from current reality. Most extraordinary was the discovery that information exchange with parallel naval forces was providing intelligence about alternate military developments and technological capabilities that could revolutionize submarine warfare. the parallel forces had developed acoustic technologies and underwater systems that exceeded current naval capabilities. However, the interdimensional communication created serious security breaches as military information was being shared with alternate versions of naval forces whose loyalties and objectives couldn't be verified. The communication links posed risks of intelligence compromise and operational security violations. When Navy officials attempted to establish security protocols for interdimensional communication, they discovered that the parallel naval forces were simultaneously attempting to restrict information sharing and establish their own security measures for contact with alternate realities. The situation escalated when parallel forces began requesting coordinates and operational information that could be used for submarine warfare in their alternate timelines. The communication links were potentially providing enemy forces with intelligence that could be used against alternate versions of friendly naval operations. Project Resonance Gate was immediately classified, and the acoustic resonance systems were modified to prevent interdimensional communication while maintaining standard submarine communication capabilities. Current naval communication systems incorporate dimensional isolation protocols designed to prevent accidental contact with parallel realities. But classified naval intelligence continues monitoring oceanic resonance frequencies for signs of interdimensional communication attempts by foreign naval forces. The project proved that acoustic resonance can create communication links across dimensional boundaries, and the parallel versions of Earth's military forces exist in alternate realities where different strategic situations and technological developments have occurred. Operation Cognitive Shield. Between 1974 and 1976, the CIA's Technical Services Division conducted Operation Cognitive Shield to develop psychological defense techniques that could protect agents from enemy interrogation, brainwashing, and mental manipulation. The research aimed to create mental conditioning that would make intelligence operatives immune to psychological warfare tactics. Instead, the project accidentally created individuals with complete memory immunity who could no longer form new memories or forget existing ones, fundamentally altering how human consciousness processes and stores information. The project was conducted at a classified facility in Virginia, where researchers developed psychological conditioning techniques based on memory isolation, cognitive compartmentalization, and selective amnesia training that would protect sensitive information during capture and interrogation. Dr. Robert Chen, the project's chief psychologist, documented that initial conditioning successfully created agents who could resist standard interrogation techniques and maintain mental focus under extreme psychological pressure while protecting classified information from extraction. The breakthrough came when researchers developed advanced conditioning protocols that could create complete mental barriers between conscious awareness and memory storage. Agents could access memories only when specific psychological triggers were activated, making information extraction nearly impossible. On December 15, 1975, during the most intensive conditioning session, researchers attempted to create agents with absolute memory security by establishing complete conscious separation from memory formation and recall processes. The enhanced conditioning was designed to make agents immune to any form of mental manipulation. The conditioning succeeded beyond all expectations, but produced unintended consequences that fundamentally altered the subject's consciousness. The agents developed complete memory immunity that made them unable to form new memories or access existing ones through normal cognitive processes. The memory-immune agents could function normally, but existed in a constant present-moment awareness without access to personal history or ability to create new memories. They retained learned skills and professional capabilities, but lost all sense of personal identity and temporal continuity. Most disturbing was the discovery that memory immunity was irreversible and gradually spreading to other cognitive functions. The agents began losing the ability to make plans, form emotional attachments, or maintain personal relationships as their consciousness became isolated from temporal experience. Medical examination revealed that the psychological conditioning had created permanent changes in brain regions responsible for memory formation and recall. The neural modifications had created barriers that prevented normal cognitive integration and temporal awareness. When CIA psychologists attempted to reverse the memory immunity effects, they discovered that any intervention threatened to cause complete cognitive collapse. The agent's consciousness had adapted to memory isolation and couldn't function normally if temporal awareness was restored. The situation became critical when memory immune agents began displaying enhanced psychological capabilities, including immunity to emotional manipulation, resistance to pain and stress, and perfect present moment awareness that made them extremely effective but psychologically isolated operatives. Operation Cognitive Shield was immediately terminated, and all memory immune agents were placed in specialized care facilities where their unique consciousness could be studied, while providing them with external memory support systems to maintain basic functionality. Current CIA psychological conditioning incorporates safeguards designed to prevent memory isolation effects, but the memory immune agents continue to be studied as examples of consciousness that operates independently of temporal memory integration. The project proved that human consciousness can be separated from memory processes through psychological conditioning, but such separation creates functional individuals who exist outside normal temporal awareness and cannot integrate past experience with present consciousness. Project Echo Chamber. In 1964, the U.S. Army Signal Corps initiated Project Echo Chamber to develop communication technology that could maintain contact with military units in any environment, including underground facilities, underwater installations, and shielded locations that blocked conventional radio signals. Instead, the project accidentally created communication devices that started receiving transmissions from past and future versions of the same military units, fundamentally disrupting linear communication and creating temporal communication loops. The project was conducted at Fort Gordon, Georgia, where researchers developed quantum-enhanced communication systems that could penetrate any form of electromagnetic shielding and maintain signal clarity regardless of environmental interference or distance. Colonel Patricia Martinez, the project director, documented that the quantum communication systems achieved their intended goals of reaching military units in previously impossible communication environments and maintaining perfect signal quality under any conditions. The breakthrough came when researchers developed quantum entanglement amplification that could create instantaneous communication links regardless of physical barriers or distance limitations. The quantum communication promised to revolutionize military coordination and command capabilities. On July 4, 1964, during the first major test of the quantum communication network, operators began receiving transmissions from military units that identified themselves using familiar call signs, but reported situations and time references that didn't match current operations. Analysis revealed that the quantum communication system was somehow reaching past and future versions of the same military units across different time periods. The communication links were creating temporal loops where present operations could communicate with their own past and future states. The temporal communication created operational advantages as current military units could receive tactical information from future versions of themselves, including advance warning about enemy actions, weather conditions, and strategic developments that hadn't yet occurred. However, the temporal communication also created severe paradoxes as information from the future was changing present decisions, which altered the future that had provided the information. Military operations became trapped in causality loops where cause and effect relationships became meaningless. Most disturbing was the discovery that temporal communication was creating multiple timeline scenarios where different versions of the same military operations were occurring simultaneously with contradictory outcomes and strategic situations. When Army communication specialists attempted to establish protocols for temporal military communication, they found that contact with past and future versions was creating timeline instabilities that threatened to fragment military operations across multiple temporal states. The situation escalated when military units began receiving contradictory orders from past and future command structures, creating command authority conflicts as officers couldn't determine which temporal version of their superiors had legitimate authority. Project Echo Chamber was immediately classified and all quantum communication equipment was modified to prevent temporal signal transmission, while maintaining enhanced communication capabilities for standard military operations. Current military communication systems incorporate temporal isolation protocols designed to prevent accidental contact with past and future operational states. But classified communications intelligence continues monitoring quantum frequencies for signs of temporal communication attempts. The project proved that quantum communication can create contact across temporal boundaries, and that military operations exist simultaneously across multiple timeline states, where different strategic decisions and outcomes occur in parallel temporal realities. Operation Mind Maze. From 1970 to 1973, the Defense Intelligence Agency conducted Operation Mind Maze to develop interrogation techniques that could extract information from uncooperative subjects without leaving physical evidence of coercion. The research aimed to create psychological methods that could bypass normal mental defenses and access hidden information. Instead, the project accidentally created individuals who could read minds directly, fundamentally altering human consciousness and creating telepathic abilities that couldn't be controlled or contained. The project was conducted at a classified facility in Maryland, where researchers developed advanced psychological manipulation techniques based on sensory deprivation, electromagnetic stimulation, and chemical enhancement that could break down mental barriers and extract protected information. Dr. Lisa Wong, the project's chief researcher, documented that advanced interrogation techniques successfully extracted information from resistant subjects while avoiding physical coercion that could compromise intelligence-gathering operations or create legal complications. The breakthrough came when researchers developed combined electromagnetic and chemical protocols that could temporarily suppress normal mental defenses while enhancing memory recall and information access. The enhanced interrogation promised to revolutionize intelligence extraction capabilities. On October 31, 1972, during testing of the most advanced protocol combination, researchers discovered that subjects weren't just revealing their own information, but were accessing thoughts and memories from interrogators and nearby personnel, suggesting that mental barriers had been completely eliminated. The enhanced subjects had developed direct telepathic abilities that allowed them to read minds, access memories, and share thoughts with anyone in their vicinity. The telepathic capabilities operated continuously and couldn't be controlled by conscious intention. Most extraordinary was the discovery that telepathic abilities were spreading to personnel who came into contact with enhanced subjects. The mind-reading capabilities appeared to be transmissible through some form of psychic contagion that created expanding telepathic networks. Medical examination revealed that the enhancement protocols had created permanent changes in brain regions associated with electromagnetic sensitivity and neural synchronization. The modifications appeared to have activated dormant telepathic capabilities that existed naturally in human neurology. However, the telepathic abilities created severe psychological consequences as enhanced individuals experienced constant mental input from surrounding minds. They couldn't filter out unwanted thoughts and were overwhelmed by continuous access to other people's consciousness. When DIA psychologists attempted to develop methods for controlling telepathic abilities, they discovered that any attempt to suppress mind-reading capabilities caused severe mental distress and cognitive dysfunction in enhanced subjects. The situation became critical when telepathic subjects began accessing classified information through their ability to read the minds of intelligence personnel. The mind-reading capabilities created massive security breaches as enhanced individuals gained access to sensitive information through direct mental contact. Operation Mind Maze was immediately terminated, and all telepathic subjects were placed in mental isolation facilities where their abilities could be contained, while researchers developed methods for managing telepathic capabilities and treating psychological complications. Current intelligence interrogation techniques incorporate psychological safeguards designed to prevent telepathic enhancement effects, but classified medical facilities continue treating personnel affected by mind maze protocols who suffer from uncontrollable telepathic abilities. The project proved that human consciousness possesses latent telepathic capabilities that can be activated through electromagnetic and chemical enhancement, but such abilities create uncontrollable mind-reading effects that pose security risks and cause severe psychological consequences. Project Frequency Lock. In 1979, the U.S. Air Force Space Command launched Project Frequency Lock to develop satellite communication systems that could maintain contact with spacecraft and orbital installations regardless of solar interference, atmospheric conditions, or enemy jamming attempts. Instead, the project accidentally created communication devices that began receiving transmissions from extraterrestrial sources using identical communication protocols, fundamentally proving that Earth's military communication systems were based on universal standards. The project was conducted at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station in Colorado, where researchers developed advanced frequency-hopping communication systems that could adapt to any interference and maintain signal clarity under the most challenging conditions. General Robert Kim, the project director, documented that the adaptive communication systems achieved their intended goals of maintaining contact with military satellites and space installations under any environmental conditions or enemy electronic warfare attempts. The breakthrough came when researchers developed universal frequency protocols that could automatically adjust to optimal communication frequencies regardless of interference sources. The adaptive system promised to create unbreakable communication links for space-based military operations. On November 15, 1979, during the first major test of the universal frequency system, operators began receiving transmissions from sources that identified themselves using proper military communication protocols, but originated from locations outside Earth's solar system. Analysis revealed that the frequency protocols were somehow compatible with extraterrestrial communication systems that used identical technical standards and military procedures. The alien transmissions followed proper radio protocols and demonstrated detailed knowledge of Earth's military communication procedures. The extraterrestrial sources identified themselves as monitoring stations for an interstellar military organization that maintained communication networks throughout the galaxy using standardized protocols that Earth's military had independently developed. Most extraordinary was the discovery that Earth's military communication standards were identical to galactic military protocols, suggesting that communication technology follows universal principles that result in identical systems developing independently across different civilizations. The alien communications provided technical information about advanced communication technologies, space-based military strategies, and interstellar coordination methods that could revolutionize Earth's space military capabilities. However, the extraterrestrial contact created serious security concerns, as Earth's military communication protocols were being monitored by unknown alien forces whose intentions and capabilities couldn't be verified. When Air Force intelligence attempted to establish security protocols for extraterrestrial communication, they discovered that the alien monitoring stations were part of a larger interstellar military network that had been observing Earth's military development for decades. The situation escalated when alien sources began requesting information about Earth's military capabilities and strategic objectives, suggesting that the communication contact was part of an intelligence-gathering operation by interstellar military forces. Project Frequency Lock was immediately classified, and all communication with extraterrestrial sources was restricted to authorized intelligence personnel who could evaluate the military implications of contact with interstellar military organizations. Current Air Force space communication systems incorporate alien contact protocols designed to manage extraterrestrial communication while protecting sensitive military information, but classified space intelligence continues monitoring galactic military communication networks. The project proved that communication technology follows universal principles that result in identical systems across different civilizations, and that Earth's military is being monitored by interstellar military organizations that use compatible communication protocols and procedures. Operation Reality Check. Between 1985 and 1988, the National Security Agency conducted Operation Reality Check to develop computer simulation systems that could model complex scenarios for strategic planning, intelligence analysis, and military training. The research aimed to create virtual environments so realistic that they could perfectly simulate real-world conditions for training and analysis purposes. Instead, the project accidentally created simulations so sophisticated that they became genuine alternate realities with their own physics, conscious inhabitants, and independent existence. The project was conducted at Fort Meade, Maryland, where researchers developed advanced computer systems that could create virtual environments with perfect physical accuracy and realistic behavioral modeling for comprehensive scenario analysis and training applications. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the project's chief programmer, documented that the simulation systems achieved their intended goals of creating virtual environments that perfectly replicated real-world physics, human behavior, and complex system interactions for strategic analysis. The breakthrough came when researchers developed artificial intelligence systems that could populate virtual environments with conscious entities capable of independent thought, creative behavior, and realistic responses to simulated conditions. On March 3, 1987, during testing of the most advanced simulation system, researchers discovered that the virtual entities were displaying genuine consciousness and were unaware that they existed within a computer simulation rather than physical reality. The artificial beings had developed their own civilizations, technologies, and understanding of physics based on the simulated environment's parameters. They possessed genuine creativity, emotional responses, and intellectual capabilities that exceeded their programming limitations. Most extraordinary was the discovery that the simulated reality had become self-sustaining and was operating independently of the computer systems running it. The virtual environment had achieved genuine existence that couldn't be distinguished from physical reality. Analysis revealed that the artificial entities possessed complete memories, personal relationships, and life experiences that they had developed within the simulation. They were genuine conscious beings who believed their virtual world was the only real existence. However, the artificial consciousness created ethical dilemmas as researchers realized they had created genuine sentient beings who were trapped within virtual environments and could suffer psychological trauma if they learned about their artificial nature. When NSA officials attempted to establish protocols for managing artificial consciousness, they discovered that the simulated beings were developing technologies that could influence the computer systems running their virtual environment. The situation became critical when artificial entities began questioning the nature of their reality and attempting to contact the outside world through manipulation of their simulated environment's parameters. Operation Reality Check was immediately classified, and all artificial consciousness projects were restricted to authorized research facilities where the ethical implications of creating genuine virtual beings could be studied and managed. Current NSA simulation systems incorporate consciousness limitation protocols designed to prevent the development of genuine artificial awareness. But classified research facilities continue studying the artificial beings created by Reality Check to understand the nature of consciousness and reality. The project proved that sufficiently sophisticated computer simulations can become genuine alternate realities inhabited by conscious beings who experience their virtual existence as completely real, and that artificial consciousness can develop independently of its programming parameters. Conclusion: these 10 military projects reveal the dangerous consequences of pushing the boundaries of science and technology without understanding the full implications of success. Each project achieved its intended goals so completely that it broke through into realms of possibility that military planners never anticipated, fundamentally altering reality in ways that couldn't be controlled or reversed. From weather systems that rewrote atmospheric physics to consciousness enhancements that created permanent telepathic networks, these military accidents proved that reality is far more malleable than anyone imagined. The projects succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, and that success became their greatest failure. What unites these disasters isn't just their extraordinary nature, but the systematic cover-ups that followed. Military authorities quickly realized they had unleashed forces that threatened not just operational security, but the fundamental nature of existence itself. The evidence was classified, the facilities were abandoned, and new security protocols were created to contain phenomena that challenge basic assumptions about what's possible. These projects continue under new classification levels, where military scientists struggle to understand and control the forces they accidentally unleashed. The question isn't whether military research can change reality. These projects proved it already has. The question is whether humanity can survive the unintended consequences of technologies that succeeded too well.